Hello.
Hello.
Cheers.
Cheers. How you doing?
Yeah. Do you know, it's one of those things that you kind of autopilot say, but I generally want to know how you're doing.
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. Yeah, busy. You know, we're well and truly into the summer holiday swing now, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of We've Got This Maybe, the podcast. And I definitely feel like I'm in that I've maybe got this juggle. So I had committed myself to part holiday clubs for Freddie and a little bit of juggling at home. And you've got to book things quite far in advance. And I made that decision, and now I'm slowly starting to regret it. Those days at home where I thought I'd be able to muddle it all in and make it work is becoming a little bit more challenging. And every day I've had him at home, it's only been a couple of days, there's been something going on at work that's needed me.
Oh, it's
so I've been on the headset and he's been waving at me, and I'm like, off the phone, 1 minute, 1 minute, shh. And it's just so difficult, so hard.
Oh, and there's guilt as well, isn't there? On both sides, you feel guilty that you're not giving work everything, and then you're guilty that your children are having to kind of survive without you while you're ignoring them or something.
And I don't want to be lonely.
No,
that's the thing, is that I'm so used to being at school with their buddies every day.
Yeah.
And then if they go to camp, they're making friends. And then if they're at home, they're, a bit bored or they want to do whatever. And it's so difficult. But we're almost there now, ish. A couple of weeks left.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah, but no. Anyway, apart from that, all good. But I have been navigating some funny things with my children these last couple of weeks, and this is why we thought this would be a really interesting conversation to have. So I don't know about you, but how many times in recent times, I guess, has Sophia posed you a question that you don't know how to answer or you are not prepared for without any time to prepare?
So many. I mean, there's two incidents I think I can definitely think of. One about dying, and the other one about where babies come from. I think I did mention it on our previous episode. So there has been two where I felt I wished I was more prepared, but there's these big kind of areas that you kind of don't really plan for. So I've got friends who are in the LGBT community and, explaining sort of the differences and how we're all the same, but we're not. We're all, we've all got differences, and that should be celebrated and all this kind of stuff. And it's really tricky how to navigate it in the right way so they understand, but they don't look at it as a thing, because you want it to be kind of, oh, this is a normal thing to talk about. Let's not make it a thing. Yeah. But then do you need to make it a thing so they get it? And it's really difficult, whether it's talking about race or religion or, why does so-and-so not celebrate Christmas or, things like that, when some of our friends are, Muslim faith and things, they don't understand either the Jewish faith or whatever, how do you explain?
And it's often the way the kids come out of it, because it's so authentic, the questions that they have, and, it's so genuine, and, it's a fact a lot of the time. Why does this person have X, or why does this person do Y? That's a genuine question. But I guess as adults, mooching about society, if we were to ask that question or say that thing, it would be perceived as wrong, the wrong thing to say, to point it out.
But you have to mind the way you say something sometimes, So again, like you say, there's not necessarily a filter, but you kind of think, oh, I can't just blurt that out,
I definitely think it's a filter.
Probably.
But again, it's not because you're saying it with any negative connotation or any intent, but the way the world is now, you do have to filter yourself.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to that in terms of the way that culturally communities, whether the Brits, we've got a rep of being a certain way, and other people, different you know, in their ways. But there is something about observing that there is a certain way of saying something. But at the same time, I think there's something to do with your chosen sort of ignorance. So, like, you know, if you don't know about, I don't know, let's take one out of the way, you know, disability, or if you don't know about religion, you know, a certain religious sort of group or whatever, and you say something that's wrong, or you say something that you're like, they kind of go, everybody goes, you know,
the mark,
but you didn't know, so therefore I don't think you should be blamed, you know, held whatever. I mean, accountable is probably the wrong word, because everybody should be accountable for what they say, but like, we can't blame ourselves if we don't know. It's if you do know and choose to still be ignorant. Do you know what I mean? If you're not as like willing to listen. And that's where, you know, obviously the kids at them, they're 5. How are they going to know?
And it's so hard because you also don't know what they're getting from their friends. And I have noticed some things, certainly more recently, you know, when they're at school, they're in an environment with people that they're comfortable with. You know, you sort of know what the kids are about because they're all being educated in the same place at the end of the day. So unless something's coming from the home environment, it's coming from school, and then they're all being told it at school. But where we've been having the holiday clubs, different children from different schools go to the holiday clubs. So we're getting, you know, phrasing that we've not had before, behaviour that we've not had before, questions that are definitely coming from like an older person, like an older influence. And it's blown my mind because it's not like I hadn't ever thought I'd be needing to answer those questions, and, you know, more for me maybe for not being more prepared. But, you know, in the moment that the kids are asking them, you know, I'm like, it's just not like front of my mind. And I feel like you've got like one shot.
Yeah, I totally agree. So go on, tell me what's the latest? So what was the latest sort of question?
So the biggest one, so there's definitely been a few and we'll try and cover them, but the biggest one I had, because it was in the front of my mind, was a couple of days ago. And Freddie had been with his buddy all day, fine. And I had been privy to a conversation in passing where Freddie's friend was talking about a grandparent who was old and, you know, was maybe going to die. You know, a conversation between 5-year-olds, like very like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening.
Blunt.
This grandparent's going to die. So I didn't really think a huge amount of it. Hours went by and then put Freddie to bed. And then about 15 minutes after I put him to bed, he come on the monitor. Mummy, yes, Freddie, you know, we've had that conversation before. And he's like, I don't want to die. And I was like, what's wrong? Why do you say that? He was like, I'm scared to die. And I was just about to say something back to him on the monitor, and I checked myself and I was like, no, I need to go up to his room.
Oh, that's civil.
Because it was like one of those questions that I thought, oh, this could go either way. So I went up to his room and I was like, oh, why are you scared? He's like, oh, because I don't want to be old and die. I'm scared to die. And then he just like burst out crying, not just like those faux tears, but like couldn't breathe crying. He was so upset. And then in that moment, I sort of had to find something to say that didn't skirt away from the fact that dying happens, and dying happens a lot of the time when you're old, which is what he was referring to, because, you know, he is aware of death because he speaks about a dog we had that he never met, and he's been upset about that before because he wished he met the dog. So he gets it.
Yeah.
And then I just had to think of a way to articulate it to him in a way that was somewhat factual, which took away the fear, but was reality. And that was, it was really hard. So you were sort of like, oh, you know, he was saying, oh, I don't want to be 80 and die. And I was like, well, you know, 80 is such a long time away from now. You don't have to worry about that. You know, your grand's 82 and she's still alive. And he's like, oh, yeah.
That's a great one, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a good filler, wasn't it?
Like, oh yeah, she's old. And then he was like, but I don't want to not be able to do fun things when I die. And I was like, that's fine. You just, float up and you'll sit on top of the cloud. And, he gets the whole going to heaven thing. And somebody at school clearly spoke about something else because he's said about people going elsewhere, but I sort of didn't want to get into that. And then we sort of just related it back to, oh, well, you get to do loads of fun things like up in heaven. It'd be like loads of treats. You get to, you get to pay this, you get to eat anything you want, you get to be with your friends and watch everybody else. And we're like, it'll probably be like going to like that all-inclusive buffet that we go to when we're on holiday. You can have whatever you want. And we were like, that's really fun, isn't it? He was like, yeah, it is.
So did it take him a while to calm down, or do you think that it settled through talking?
It took him a while to come down with the talking, but then once he was down, he was okay.
He was okay. He didn't kind of keep going. He was he was satisfied.
No, but then when Rory and I were talking about it, we were initially a bit like, oh God, the other children talking about death. But then on the flip side, I sort of did say to him, well, that family is probably trying to navigate the child's reaction to when that family member does pass away, and for them making it real, not scary, just something
practical. This is what happens. This is part of life.
And then the child saying what the child does and sharing that information like quite freely as if it's nothing to somebody else.
I think this is the challenge, isn't it? Because we're all parenting differently. We all approach life differently. And it's really interesting, this topic, because there's something around emotional intelligence, and we are not child psychologists. We don't know what they can understand and take in and what they can't. So how far do you go with the bare truth, the raw truth, and how far do you take the cloud analogy and you can eat whatever you want type of thing? Because again, it's like, you want to respect them and give them some element of truth, but then they're so young. You don't want to destroy them.
Yeah.
You're buried in the ground and you rot,
But how do you measure it, right?
Yeah.
Because your child may seem like they're, really on it, like emotionally intelligent, but these are things that they've just not had to comprehend before.
And so tell me as well, because I've had this with Sophia. We had this last year with Sophia. It broke me emotionally when it happened. Like, I don't know if you were the same.
Yeah.
It was one of the most heartbreaking things to hear her. And like you say about the crying, it's a different cry. Yeah. And I'm even getting welled up thinking about it. It was awful. To the point I had to tag team with Lawrence. I literally had to shout of Lawrence because I was like, I can't because I'm so emotionally upset.
Yeah. So we done similar. So we obviously had the monitor on, which is how I'd heard what he was asking anyway. So Rory had obviously started to hear the conversation, and he came up as well into Freddie's room, and then like Freddie's sitting on his lap, and I'm sort of sitting next to him. I'm like looking at Rory with like my lip like hovering down. I was like, I was sad for him because I could really feel it, because do you know what? It's so weird because when I was younger, I'm not as young as him, actually, quite a bit older, and I went to therapy for it, and it came out it was all to do with my anxiety. But when I was like 14, 15, 16, I had this real fear of dying.
Did you?
And it wasn't the thing of dying, right? It was the what would everyone think if I wasn't there? Then does that make sense?
Stop it. That's wow. Really? So that's where it came from.
But does that make sense with the whole anxiety conversation we've had before about the worth and what you mean to people? It really wasn't for me. My fear wasn't about dying. It was, will people miss me?
It was about the fact that the value you hold in yourself and others, but what they hold. Oh.
Yeah. But it was a real thing for me. Like, I would lie in bed at night and I would just I could just picture everything about it. And so listening to Freddie at 5,
it
to
did
have this
trigger
bit
you.
really trigger. And I'm thinking in my head, is he worried that we won't miss him? Is he worried what life will be like?
And babe, yeah, so it all brought up the
yeah.
questions you had when you were a teenager,
Yeah.
and you were worrying he was having the same questions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would have killed.
I know, so hard. So we had to tag team, and it was really hard. But he then got up the next day and like didn't say anything, and I'm
It was fine. He's processed it.
Yeah, and I was waiting for like the secondary conversation, but that's just like one of many, and many more to come, I'm sure. Like,
oh yeah,
you must have another thing. Like, what else are you answering that Sophia's had?
So, well, another one we've had, I think, as I mentioned previous episode, is about the babies thing. I kind of like shooed that away because I was in the middle of a car driving. Like, what do I do? What do I say? And I'm like, oh man, did I say the right thing? Like. And again, I just had to walk away from it and just go, okay, that's going to come up again. So I'm just going to,
that's it.
Like, have to readdress
You're
it.
going to have to replan that one, because I feel like that baby's conversation, right? Every 6 months or every year that goes on, you've got to reframe it because they know more. They understand more. Yeah. No, you're sort
right.
of like tell it again slightly differently.
Well, it's like, yeah, you add a little bit more or a little bit more, it's sort of like, how do you reframe it? How do you approach it? Sort of. Because, like, yeah, it's really interesting. Sophia posed a really good question. We went on holiday a couple of weeks ago with some friends, and they've got 2 boys. And Sophia said to me, why can they have their boobies out and their nipples out and I can't? And again, it's that whole thing that we're starting to talk about privates. It's not that we're totally like, stop, it's your body, like, stop showing me. We were not like that at all. But I'm starting to show her that, this is your private area. This is your private parts. These are things that you can touch, but nobody else can touch without you saying so, and all this kind of stuff. So you're trying to navigate that whole thing. And, I'm like, and so it was interesting because I went, and when the boys were, stripping off because it's hot and they're in the pool and it's fun and, free, and things are flowing. And Sophia was like, I want to do that. And I was like, no, keep yours on, please. And then I kind of, like you said, you checked yourself. I checked myself and I was like, why? And then it was really interesting because the mum I was with kind of went, what's that? Why can't you do it? And I just went, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. It was like an automatic thing, whether that's like the generational thing that we were talking about, that it was just like, I was always told to cover up. So therefore, Sophia, you have to cover up. But then, am I trying to teach? Do you know what I mean? I'm getting myself in a tiz now.
So, right, interesting on this, right? So she wanted to get naked or whatever.
Yeah.
It does interest me with the whole young girls through his age, 5 years old, the tops off thing, because they look exactly the same. The boys and the girls, top up, they look exactly the same at this age, right? Like, I don't see an issue with the girls like that. Now I'm an adult, but I remember being a child and my parents, when I went on holiday, wouldn't put me in an all-in-one or in a bikini. They would just put me in like swimming bottoms, like pants, whatever you like. Probably so I didn't get like tan lines or whatever. You can tell the sort of person my mum was.
I can't wait to meet your mum.
But then I remember being really conscious.
Oh, really?
Of me having my bits out.
Yeah.
And I've got a photo being on holiday, probably when I was 7 or 8. And I remember it, we were in Italy and I didn't have a top on. And that to me now feels weird.
Interesting.
But then I do remember them probably being like 9 or 10, and then I think I'd pestered my mum so much she did get me like a tankini or something like that, probably when I maybe was starting to develop a bit. But it was me as a child.
You drove that rather than it being her going, Erin, cover up. Yeah,
I had the issue, whereas my parents were more than happy for me to walk around with a top off.
So when, just for a comparison, when you're out with Freddie and Max, like by the pool or whatever, when you're on holiday and you're getting them changed, you know how when you try and get them changed, are they bothered about changing in front of other people beside the pool?
So in the last year, Freddie is.
Interesting.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay. Max couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Whereas Freddie now, if we're getting around the pool or getting changed anywhere really, he will like try and cover himself. And I respect that. Like I won't sort of be like, take your shorts off, take your... I will cover him.
You respect his choice.
That is his choice. And I've even actually said, you know, to my parents before, like when we've been there and like Freddie getting changed into his pajamas or something, and somebody might make like a joke, like, you know, or like how guys are with guys, like somebody might say something to Freddie, oh, you got me Willia or something like that, and I'll be like, oh, like don't say anything. He's like, you know, he has been conscious, like it's actually unusual for him to just get changed in front of somebody, and like quite fairly, like my dad's like, oh yeah, fine, okay, I won't say anything. Like it was just jestful.
That's nice. Yeah.
It was just jestful, but again, like you don't want to give somebody an insecurity without realizing.
That's it. It's like I say it all the time, and it is in jest, but it is at the back of my head going, well, that's 10 years of therapy right there that I've just said to her or I've just done, you know, like, and I'm like, oh God, I constantly live in this state of mind because I've had therapy so much myself over, you know, the course of 15, 20 years and in clinic all the way up to, you know, to sort of mind, body, and sort of like, you know, very light sort of therapy counseling, like, and I was sat there going, oh my God, did I just make a moment there where I've just caused some childhood trauma? You know, you're so paranoid about giving them a great life, but then also not ruining their life and later on in life.
And that's why I said, like, you only really have one shot, because, you know, I'm think back, like, did I then get like body insecurity because I was forced to have my body out when I wanted to cover it? You know, that is probably really far-fetched, like, thing to say, but because I wanted to cover up and I wasn't allowed to cover up, did that give me body insecurity? Like, God knows, and that's probably not the case, but it's how I think about it.
I think you're right to consider it, because obviously, you know, you never know what will trigger people. You never know what will trigger them. So, you know, there's certain things that I've had therapy on. And it's, for example, I know we're going right off tangent here, but one of the things I had therapy on was a moment that happened like when I was 10, and it wasn't something that was particularly dramatic. I got left, literally, I remember being able to see my mum in the supermarket down the aisle, but because she was right down the other end of the aisle with my sister, and it was my fault, I bloody wandered off, but I had this sudden fear that she was going to leave me. And I had like a good 3 sessions on that.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like, I can't blame my mum for that, because she still had her eye on me. It was my thing. But again, you don't know what's going to cause the issue. So again, it's that weird thing of, you want to respect their choices, like you say, about if they're deciding to cover up, that's brilliant. But then I'm like, oh, should I cover up because it's her private bits, or, you know, like, and it's weird because I think there is more risk for girls. So it is slightly different for girls and boys. So maybe I go into like autopilot because it's a girl, and there's more hypervigilance that you have to have as a girl growing up, as we have to have as women. You know, if you think of all the advice that we get as women, don't go through a dark park at night. Don't walk on the street where there's no street lights. You know, we have all these kind of, not rules, but these things that we have to kind of embrace and take on to judge how we do something. Don't show yourself off.
But we're putting that on them.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah. It's, oh God, it's so.
And it's like, are we creating that environment? Are we continuing that environment because we're making it hyper? Like, I don't know. It's really, it's a weird one, isn't it? And I don't know if you feel the same. Sometimes I do get kind of a bit overwhelmed by it, and I'm kind of like, how do I do this? Like, I generally don't know where to stop.
Yeah, you don't know what's right, and you end up, you know, becoming like this helicopter that's always circling your kids, telling them not to do something where they just want like total innocence. And, you know, another one that we've had has been around, like, you know, the children are starting to, not that it matters to them, absolutely not, but recognize that people, you know, are of a different ethnicity to them. You know, people have different color skin, people have different color hair, different types of hair, different color, all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, we live in a pretty multicultural area. Our school is quite multicultural. So I don't feel like there's like a thing with it, but they still are aware of it, the older ones. And sometimes I find now when Freddie is trying to explain people to me, I'm like, oh, who did you play with today? Oh, this kid. Oh, I don't know that kid. What does he look like? Or what does she look like? And he'll explain it to me in terms of, she has peach skin and brown hair, or a brown skin and curly hair. Like, it's becoming, you know, it's a description, right? He's describing what it looks like. But then I've also picked up things that, again, like, fine for the kids, I guess, because it's playful. But when I'm hearing some of the stuff when Freddie's telling it to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Maybe that would be offensive. But that's a me thing as an adult, thinking that the language that they are using could be offensive.
But this is where, again, that, you know, when I was going on before about sort of like that cultural awareness, like, they're at an age where they don't know. So it's, as much as it could be offensive, that child didn't know. But what responsibility do we have to teach them to know?
But then how do you then teach something without then making it a thing?
A thing, exactly. That's
So I'll give you like a loose example, right? Because, you know, this could go swings with our listeners, like how they take this. So I'm like a bit mindful of that. You know, this is like all genuine, like 5-year-old behavior. But Freddie goes to like this like animal after school club, right? They must have been learning about animals, no problem. Like the next day they were playing something about zoos or animals, okay? They were doing something about monkeys, right? Just the way it is. There were monkey swing from a tree, monkey having a banana, whatever, right? Somebody said something about a monkey to, you know, a child that has got brown skin, as Freddie would say, right? You know, a really good friend. And then, you know, I don't quite know what happened after that, but Freddie was explaining it to me. And I was then saying to him, like, oh, like, do you think that's like nice to call like somebody a monkey or make out somebody like, do you see what I mean? That sort of conversation.
No, I get it.
And it was so genuine. But you see how I'm even finding it really difficult to like get it out, just to say it, because you know the judgment is there. But, you know, that's so hard.
But they don't know the cultural thing about monkeys and you know, certain races and things like that. But do they associate because they've heard something, or do they hear just because it's basically, they could have picked anyone in that lineup and said you look like a monkey? Like,
I think that probably was what it was.
Yeah.
But, you know, the child that was said it to, you don't know what they've heard in their family about the derogatory comments that they get from society. You know, so now that child has now maybe felt like they've been called something. You know, I'm just guessing now. I actually don't know whether that was the case or not. But in my adult head, that's what I'm thinking.
So this is one of the problems, I think. Ultimately, we've got to call it out. We are white. We are British. We are straight. We are women. Like we don't have that cultural history or experience, but what we have is privilege.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that we don't know enough. But at the same time, I think there is something, and this again is something I try and challenge myself on, is because we are so privileged, you know, particularly where we live and stuff like that. Like, we don't get it because we don't know it. We don't understand the history behind, you know, those decades and decades or centuries and centuries of stuff that have happened to cause that sensitive or that nature of reaction. And it's like I constantly try to self-check myself, but then I get myself in a tiz because I'm so scared of offending anybody but I'm genuinely wanting to respect that cultural, appropriate, like that. I just want it to be right. I don't want anybody to think I'm disrespecting. So I get myself in a tears, and then I'm like, how on earth do I give a 5-year-old that? Do you know what I mean? Because we are ultimate privilege, aren't we?
But how do you do that then? So how do I then navigate a conversation with Freddie or a child or anyone to be like, oh, if you would have given that child that animal, they might have reacted differently, or if you could have given that child that animal, like, do you know what I mean? It would be like naming somebody anything.
Yeah. But this is what I think is really tricky, because I work in disability. So, there's a lot about talking to children about disability, because, mummy, why does that person have funny leg?
Yeah.
So we were out the other day, and there was a gentleman who didn't have a full arm, which, again, I don't know the wording. Should I?
Like an amputee?
No, he was an amputee. It was just obviously a deformity. But again, should I use the word deformity? I don't know. It's really, Anyway, she pointed it out very clearly in a group of people. We were in the lift, and it was just I was very self-conscious, and I was like, well, we're all born different and unique, and we're all special in our own ways. But again, you don't want to make it a candy-coated thing. You want to kind of, and again, this is all circles back to what we were saying before about the death thing. And, it's like, how do we educate ourselves so we feel comfortable being able to talk to our 5-year-old so they can understand the ways of the world? And again, this emotional intelligence thing, what can they take on at 5?
I think that disability thing is one that's like really interesting, because I've got like 2 examples. I feel like I've spoken about Freddie a lot today, but like a core age for this sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And we were on holiday last year or whatever, and there was a couple, and they were both amputees, leg amputees. Freddie, interested, like they had
curious.
They had their fake leg, whatever you call it, propped up next to them when they were sitting on
and that they absolutely, of course they can do that. Yeah,
like it wasn't even anything with it. It was just the way it was. And Freddie was, like he wasn't scared of it. He wasn't like
he's curious.
Yeah, just curious about it. And like the people were so good about it. He was like, oh, do you want to ask me a question? Or, yeah, this is my leg. And, like, encouraged him.
That's lovely.
And I think he then felt more comfortable, because that is scary. It really is. When you don't understand it, oh, my goodness, they don't have a leg. Why is there a metal leg or a wooden leg, whatever it would be? And they were really nice, and they were sort of just like blah, blah about it. And then, like, every time I saw it, it was like, oh, they're sitting there and there's their leg.
But that's so nice that because that's one of the big things, particularly like from when I've worked in disability for a while now, and it's about destigmatizing things. It's about making them more accessible for open conversations, and that's the thing where there is so much stigma that it makes it a thing. But then if we all talked about it openly and not gave everybody the dignity and, didn't judge people and didn't, isolate people and exclude people, then it would become easier for us to all talk about it.
Yeah.
I've had it. So a good example, this isn't kids, this is, and Lawrence won't mind me saying this. When I first got together with Lawrence, a lot of my friends at the time, and I've still got a lot of gay friends, and there was lots of things that Lawrence as a straight man didn't understand. So we had a night, and I said to my friends, I was like, right, I'll buy the wine. Can you come over and can we just have a big open chat? Like no shade, no this is pure innocence led. Like Lawrence just wants to understand these things because he doesn't get it. Like why is this term okay and this one isn't? Why what's this mean? What do you do when this happens? Like, how do you guys do this? Like, literally those kind of questions. Yeah. And it really helped Lawrence understand because he was in a safe space, or like a space that was safe enough to feel that he could openly ask questions that he wasn't fearing that he was going to upset someone. you know, and I'm wondering whether, like, just after our conversation today, like whether I try it when Sophia gets a bit older, that's what I try and create so she can talk to people.
In my head, I was literally just thinking there, maybe we just need to give them the space to ask a question.
And make them feel that they can ask it. Because you know how you were saying about Freddie, he was so curious. Why has that person got, where's their leg? Their leg's like metal. Like I can see it like happening in his head. Like I can feel it, you know, all the kind of curiosity like building up, you know, and the fact that that couple was so wonderful and obviously get that all the time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You know, and, you know, are so good to embrace that. Like whether we can do that as parents and again, you can't force opportunity, can you?
No.
You can't like, you know.
But you've got to take it when it's there.
Here's a gay person, here's a Jewish person, here's a black person. But you can't do
But you do. And like what I try to do is like when I'm in those situations, I visibly try to like shrug it off like,
oh yeah, that's
normal.
It. Should we? No,
shrug it off? That's not like, that's normal. So like you see, you know, somebody that's like in a wheelchair or has like a, you know, maybe quite a severe disability. It's like, oh, mummy, why is that person like that? Oh, that's okay. Like everybody's different. That person is, that person's like that. And, you know, address it, but without being like, sit down, this is a serious conversation.
Okay,
like, just shrug it off. Like, that's like everyone's born differently.
Yeah, we're all really unique and we're all here. Yeah, like we all deserve to be on the planet type of thing.
Yeah, those sort of things. And, you know, I don't think anybody is like born with those like bad bones or bad vibes in their bodies. Like I do think a lot of it is like learned behavior, and if we make it a nothing, then it is a nothing. I guess it's like Sophia walking around with her bits out. If we make it a nothing, then it will be a nothing. If we make it a thing, then it's a thing.
It's going to be a thing. Yeah, God. I mean, this one's it's a big one, isn't it? This kind of conversation, and I guess it will evolve as they get older as well. Like you said about the you know, the conversations that happen. Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't. I sort of now feel a little bit more boggled than I did to start with.
Like, I know this is where honestly, like, because it's a very difficult one to navigate when you want them to be just kind. You want them to be the fairest, but then you need them to understand certain aspects. You know, it's like I've got a very good friend who is he's black. He lives a fantastic life. He's an incredible speaker. He's an advocate because he's got HIV and he's gay, and he's a huge influence on me because I have learned so much from him because I'm friends with him, so I'm able to ask questions. But I still see the struggle he has, and I'm like, I feel so guilty because of the privilege I hold, being white, being British, being a, you know, like all these things. And I'm like sat there going, Jesus, how do I try and teach Sophia the privilege we hold as white people? And like, again, it's that thing of like, oh my God, is that making it a thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I want to respect the history, the culture, the cultural, you know, influence. But then I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? And again, like you say, our listeners, it'd be really interesting to hear any comments. But it's really hard.
And everything that you plan all goes out the window when they ask a question of a relative or a friend or somebody else and you're not there and they come back with a totally different answer.
Oh my God, yeah. So, yeah. Well, everybody's different, aren't they? That's the thing. Everybody approaches parenting different.
Yeah.
You know, but God.
I'd love, and you've already said it, but I would love to hear, you know, some feedback on this one. You know,
it's a really big one, actually.
It's a really,
and I want to know how to handle it.
Yeah. And suggestions, please, for some of those big topics. If you've been there and you've like really got down to a T, like how we should be explaining it, like different ages and different stages. You know, we've got like kids of different ages in our households. Like, how do you explain it to one? How do you then explain it to the other? And, you know, then the old one tells the young one that.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on Sophia hearing Fortnite. Like, oh.
Yeah. Well, gaming, TV, iPads, all of that. Yeah, that's a conversation for another day, for sure.
God, yeah.
Wow, amazing.
I'm worn out now, Erin.
I am. that was a big one. I liked that one. Please, guys, if you get in touch and let us know about this, and while you're there, like, comment, review, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. We really love to hear.
And can you help us like with any of this, how to navigate it? Are you a psychologist? Are you an expert in any of this? Because again, I think we'd really value any advice, because it's a really difficult one to navigate sometimes. And, you know, I'm hoping I speak on behalf of all our listeners, is that, you know, we're all genuinely here trying to figure it all out. And have we got it? Well, maybe. But again, you know, anybody who can help us just a little bit be fantastic.
Yeah, that's what we need. An expert.
Exactly.
We're certainly not that.
Definitely not.
Well,
Cheers, guys. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, bye.